All right, let's try this. This is the Prezi for JFK and the Cold War. There we go. You can either watch this video or click through it by yourself. And then when you're done, you can fill out the Google form that's supposed to go with it. And that's your activity for today. This all ties into the test, so totally worth it. Okay, here we go. So JFK, that handsome fella right there, sounds like this. I am John F. Kennedy. I'm from Boston, and I look pretty freaking handsome. My hair has product in it. I'm president now. It's the 1960s, and here we go. I'm not going to talk like that the whole time. But the first thing, what is going on here? That's not what I want to see. First thing is not the Bay of Pigs. Here we go. We'll do this. Foreign policy basis. So he takes office and he says to himself, what should I do that's different than the old man who was the president previously? And instead of threatening to blow up the world and light it up like a Christmas tree, like Dwight Eisenhower did, he's going to use flexible response, which is like using bombs that don't have nuclear warheads in them. And then also building up the army and expanding special forces like the Navy SEALs or the Army Rangers. I think in this case, the Green Berets were like the first one. He also thought, hey, what if we give a bunch of countries a lot of money? I bet they'll like us then. So he does that with the Alliance for Progress, gives $20 billion to Latin America. That's everybody south of the border, basically, into South America. And then he develops the Peace Corps, or Corps, if you don't know what that word sounds like. And that still exists to this day, where you send out Americans to help poor countries develop, build schools, be teachers, make roads, make sewage systems. There's a video here, Life in the Peace Corps today, that kind of captures a guy's vlog who's in it. I've known people that have done it. Just a cool little thing for you to check out. So that's what he was basing his foreign policy on. From there, we're going to go into some things he had problems with as president. First thing is called the Bay of Pigs. And this was an attempt by the U.S. CIA to invade Cuba. So remember in the previous chapter we talked about Dwight Eisenhower using spies to train rebels and then overthrow governments. Well, we try that again, and JFK is basically told when he takes office, like, we got this thing going on. It's going to be great. We're going to take over Cuba. Havana, una na, here we come. And in the middle of the attempt to take it over with these rebels that were trained, everything just goes to crap. The rebels I think they hit a rock on their landing on the beach, basically making them walk from the water. And Fidel Castro's there on the beach with his troops, and they basically slaughter them. And the U.S. is supposed to provide some air support, but JFK apparently is unable to do so, and we do not get Cuba. And it's a pretty big blow to Mr. Kennedy as a president right away, and he looks like a weak foreign policy president right off the bat. And he also stops trusting the people who were in charge of these things, like the CIA or the military advisors, like the Joint Chiefs of Staff. He stops taking their opinion as fact. He's like, I think I could probably do just as good a job as you can. So why don't you take a seat there, Mr. Metals? And he starts maybe trusting his gut more on these topics, and also trusting his brother, Bobby Kennedy, who he actually appointed as the Attorney General, which is like the head lawyer for the United States. There's a video here that kind of goes over that as well. It's a National Geographic made a documentary about JFK, and Rob Lowe from Parks and Rec and also many other things was John F. Kennedy. So you can check that out if you want. From there, we go to something else that was popping off during this time period, and that's the space race. Basically, the competition of space exploration between the Soviets and the Americans. Here's a cool little factoid from history you should probably know. So the Germans during World War II were really good at making rockets. Okay, they had a V2 rocket program. There was a guy named Werner von Braun who made rockets real good, and he was also a total Nazi. And after World War II is over, the United States does something a little bit unethical. It's called Operation Paperclip. And so instead of basically killing every Nazi scientist and Nazi, supporter, we take the Nazi scientists who built Nazi rockets, and we make them in charge of NASA. Yep, that's right, folks. NASA was run by Nazis. And they also made those Nazi scientists work next to Jewish American scientists who were like, this seems a little fishy. Didn't you guys kind of, murder 6 million of our people? I don't really feel comfortable in this work environment. But we made them do it, all for the sake of the Cold War. So that was an interesting little tidbit about the space race. Also, the Soviets basically win everything in the space race. First man in space, first animal in space, first man to orbit the Earth, first space station, first woman in space. There's only one thing that we beat them on, and that is the moon landing. And some people even debate that. But I'm going to say, for the sake of this class, we landed there. It's almost like we're playing basketball against the Soviet Union, and they are dominating us. And then this is always a good move that I used to pull this out when I was a kid. You'd say, next point wins. And basically you just launch it up from a half court and it goes and you're like, yep, I totally won. I beat you, even though you scored, 20 more points than me. I got the last shot, so I'm pretty sure I won. Yep, that's a rule. And so after the moon landing, we actually become friends with the Soviets regarding space travel. And we hook up, we make a nice space station, and yada, yada, yada. But in the beginning, they dominate us, win basically everything, and we win the moon landing. So that's the space race in a nutshell. There's a video here that captures that as well, if you need to revisit it. But then we go to two more events during Kennedy's foreign policy. Let's go up here. Or it could be my eyes. Oh, look at that. Oh, crazy. Okay, so the first one we're going to talk about, Berlin Wall. In the 1960s, the Soviets built a giant wall separating East and West Berlin because everybody hated living in East Berlin. And they were like, man, this sucks. Let's go over to the West Side and live it up with the Americans. And so the Soviets were like, we must stop them. This is too much. We cannot have our people leaving our side. We must build a wall. So they build a wall. And in order to support the people of West Berlin, JFK flies over there, gives a nice little speech. He asks his people, what can I say to make these people believe that I am on their side? And they tell him, hey, JFK, you should say, Ich bin ein Berliner. That'll be great. It means I am a Berliner. Yeah. So he goes out there, he goes, Ich bin ein Berliner. But it's funny because the word Berliner doesn't translate to a person from Berlin. It's actually an American term. So here's the translation. Ladies and gentlemen, I am a jelly donut. And everyone's like, did he just say he was a jelly donut? Yeah, we love you, man. And they are on our side from that point on. After he says, I'm a jelly donut, it gets you every time. The wall stays up until 1991. Anybody who crosses basically gets shot and killed. There's lots of ways people try to sneak around and do some covert operation to get to the other side, but some are caught, some are not. The video here on this one also goes over the Berlin Wall a little bit. I'm not going to watch it though. You can watch it if you want help answering some of the questions. And then the last thing to talk about is the Cuban Missile Crisis, the closest we ever came to the end of the world. What happened? The Soviets tried putting nuclear missiles in Cuba. We fly a U-2 spy plane over Cuba, and we're like, hey, those look like nuclear missiles. Oh my God, they are. And so we try to stop them from sending anything else. So there's like this submarine of nuclear missiles coming to Cuba. We stop it with our ships, and basically it's the tensest moment of the Cold War. There's actually an event, like there's a guy in a submarine who has no contact with the top, and the Americans drop a depth charge, which is supposed to tell them to surface. Like it's one of those barrels that just goes underneath the water and blows up next to their ship, so they come up. The Soviets thought maybe that meant there was a war that broke out, so they almost fired a nuclear missile. Like one guy said, "I think I'm gonna wait," and before I push the button. And because of that guy, we are still here quarantined due to COVID-19. If that guy didn't do that, COVID-19 wouldn't exist because, hey, we wouldn't exist. The world would have evaporated, or all the people in it would have been dust by this point. So it's the closest we come to nuclear war. We make a deal to end it that says, hey, we will take our missiles out of Cuba if you'd never come to Cuba. And you also take your missiles out of Turkey and Italy. Yes, good deal. I like this deal. And they shake on it. Everybody goes home. End of the world averted. So JFK at this point is like, I think I'm getting the hang of this whole president thing and foreign policy thing. Let's keep on rolling. And like, oh, that's great, Mr. President. Except we first have to take a campaign stop in Dallas. And spoiler alert, he doesn't make it out of Dallas alive. So basically, the next topic we're going to be focusing on is going to be how this handsome fella ends his presidency with an assassination. And there you have it. If you want to click through the presentation on your own, watch the videos to answer the forum, you can. But that's your lesson for today, people. JFK and the Cold War. Man, that guy has some good hair. Always got to use product, people. Or wear a hat like I'm doing. Peace.